This episode, I talk with my friend and director Christopher Bickel. You may know him from his films Bad Girls and The Theta Girl. He has a new horror film coming out sometime this year called Pator Noster, and looks really killer. Looks like some occult horror type stuff, which I really dig. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And I have the link to the Indiegogo page and stuff in the show notes, so you can pre-order a copy and help support a really cool movie. So after you're done with this episode, make sure you check out my fellow horsemen of the podcast apocalypse, Everything Went Black podcast, Into the Necrosphere, the Necromaniacs podcast, Spitball Media, Iblis Manifestations, and the Soul Knocks podcast. And also, if you want to help support the podcast, leave a rating on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to the podcast. That's much appreciated. And also check out the Horrorwolf 666 Teespring store. I have t-shirts, coffee mugs, all kinds of stuff on there. So check that out. And once again, I hope you enjoy this episode, and thanks for listening. Yeah, I have I'm same as you. I have the DIY mindset and stuff, especially coming from the world of music. Like both of us have, been in bands and stuff. And I treat the podcast as the same way I treat like being in a band. It's all DIY and trying to get the most out of my money and try to do it all myself if I can. So.
Yeah. Punk rock.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had somebody once tell me, my podcast is kind of like like a metal version of like a hard podcast. It's the way I approach things and everything. I'm like, cool, I can totally get that. So that's a compliment to me.
Yeah, for sure.
So how things been going your way?
Everything's good. I have a lot of work to do. Let's see. I'm in editing right now with the newest feature that I'm working on, and it's a lot. And I'm trying to raise money at the same time. So that's almost a full-time job in and of itself, is just trying to promote the crowdfunding campaign to raise the money to finish the movie. It's a lot.
Oh, I'm sure, man. And I got to say, Pator Noster and the Mission of Light looks fucking killer and totally up my alley.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think this will be my third movie, and I think this one has the most me in it. The first one I did was written by someone else, and then the second one I did, I co-wrote with a good friend of mine, and this one is just all me, and there's just it's just pretty much I packed everything that I love and think is cool into one movie. So hopefully there's other people out there like me that are fascinated by this these weird cults and old hippie like psych records and shit like that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a big following. I know I'm in my podcast group that I'm in, the Horsemen of the Podcast Apocalypse. All the different associations I have with different podcasters are like this big giant like super group of different podcasts. But I can say just from our audience as a total, like that type of horror is like big with us. So I'm sure you're gonna get a bunch of fucking new fans and people like following the hell out of this movie.
Yeah, I hope so. It's a weird one. And I think when you're operating at this level of basically having no money to put into stuff and you're kind of scrounging to do things, like you kind of have to like go full bore into the weird. Because that's where you find your people. We're all just sort of here like under the floorboards.
Yeah, definitely. That's totally true. Where how did you get your idea for this film? Like, where did it all come from?
Okay, so Well, again, probably the theme of this conversation is going to be just of not having money. And so when you're trying to do a feature film with very little, when you go into the writing stage of it, you just kind of have to write to things that you have access to, so resources that you have. And as I was starting to write my next movie, I knew I wanted it to be a horror movie, because the last movie I did, Bad Girls, was not a horror movie. It was a road film, like a girl gang road movie, and I love that genre. But I came to find quickly that if you do a horror movie, there's a plethora of blogs and podcasts and journalists that will write about your horror movie. But if you do a girl gang road movie, there's not a lot of blogs that are devoted to that genre.
Right.
So I realized, well, I should go back to horror, especially when you're doing this stuff on the cheap. If you're going to find a fan base, it's just much easier to do horror. And so I knew I was going to write a horror movie. And at the same time as I was getting started with it, a friend of mine, Shauna, so there's this couple, Rob and Shauna, and they provided all the cool cars and Bad Girls. They're this couple of gearheads that fix up old cars, and they always have just like really badass stuff. Mm-hmm. And Shauna messaged me, and she said, hey, we just bought this old school bus, and we want to paint it like an old hippie bus, like the Ken Kesey Further bus for the acid test. And she's like, if you want to use something like that in one of your movies, I just want you to know that we're going to have that available. And I was like, okay, well, let me just write a movie around this bus. So that's kind of what I did. Was I had the idea of a hippie cult. They had this bus, and around the same time as all that was happening, I found this album at a thrift store by a group called Yehovah 13, and that was the musical offshoot of the Source Family, which was a kind of a famous cult in California in the early 70s. And it's a very rare record. And I just happened to find it at a thrift store, and I became really obsessed with that. So I knew that I wanted to have this cult that were also they had a band and they put out albums. And because I've worked in record stores my entire life, I knew that I had access to a record store to shoot in. And again, you're just trying to write to things that you have access to. And so it all kind of came together as a story about a girl who works in a record store. She finds this rare psychedelic album by this hippie commune, and she investigates it and kind of gets drawn into that world. And then of course, the cult is involved in some really dark stuff, and it ends up really badly for this record store clerk and her friends. So that's kind of where it all started, just trying to write to things that I had access to.
That's killer. Yeah, write what you know. So I think that's perfect for you.
Yeah, and so, it was really easy to write a story about someone who works in a record store, because I've worked in record stores my entire life, basically. As soon as I started working when I was still in college. And so that was a record store called Manifest.
I remember Manifest.
Yeah. I started working there, and I worked there for a few years. And I opened my own store called Nuclear Days that I had for 5 years. And then after I closed that, I went to work for Papa Jazz in Columbia, and I've worked there ever since. So my day job, pretty much my entire life, has been working in record stores.
That's killer to be, doing what you love, like this, surrounded by music every day. That's really badass, man.
Yeah. The thing is, it doesn't pay very well. So that's kind of like why I'm in the position where I'm having to like crowdfund and beg people for money to do my movies, because, I make enough to live. But I can't complain about it because I get to do what I love doing. And, what I love doing is music. And I've been a record collector my entire life. And, the one great thing about working in a record store is you get first pick of everything that comes in the store. Mm-hmm. So, like, my record collection is really awesome. But, I've lived a pretty meager lifestyle, but I have really cool fucking records.
Hell yeah, I live the same way. But besides records, I collect like really weird Blu-rays and stuff, and like expensive special edition Blu-rays of certain movies. And I like I'm cheap on a lot of things, but when it comes to like horror and like shit I really want, I save up and fucking make sure I will have that, you know.
Yeah, I'm the same way with movies too, and I mean, it's really my two great loves. My entire life have been records, um, and well, when I first started, it was strictly punk rock was all I was into, and then as I've gotten older, I've branched out to I mean, almost every genre of music I think has really great music, but movies like particularly horror movies. I've just been obsessed with my entire life, and I'm the same way. Like when Vinegar Syndrome or Severin, puts out a new slew of stuff, I'm right there. I'm like, okay, what do you got? And I've spent way too much money on that stuff, but I love it. And
Dude,
there's worse
like,
things I could spend money on.
oh, exactly. Like about like 10 minutes before we had this conversation, I just found out that Arrow put out a Conan collection. It's called Conan the Conqueror collection. It's like both movies and all this like killer like extra stuff, booklets, artwork, and everything. And they cut the price in
Yeah.
half from like 90 to 50. So I'm like, well, I'm getting that. So I just put my pre-order in for that because I fucking love the first Conan film. And I do appreciate the second one, even though the second one's kind of out there. It's still super fun, you know?
Yeah, and man, I'm such a sucker for us. Like, if they put it out and there's a new commentary track on it, like, well, yeah, I got to hear the new commentary track. Even though the original Conan commentary track with Arnold Schwarzenegger is maybe the best commentary track ever recorded.
I agree. Yeah.
It's like comedy gold.
Yeah. That was way back in the day for Arnold too. And like his English was definitely not very good. Yeah. His new documentary is really good on Netflix. Have you seen the new Arnold documentary?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh
But
man.
I'm dying to.
It's so good. And like those guys from that generation, like Arnold, Sylvester Stallone, Van Damme, like those are like my idols growing up, and knowing how old they're getting now. Like when I watch his documentary with Arnold, like knowing that he's like what 80 or upper 70s or something like that. But it's sad, because I know they're going out eventually. Like there's nobody really out there that's gonna replace those guys to me.
Yeah, it was definitely like there was just a certain kind of male lead actor that you had during that time that has kind of gone away. Like we don't really see that much of that anymore, which is kind of a shame because that's me too. Like that's the stuff I grew up on. I just fucking love all those guys. Man, Commando is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like I could watch that. Like if that's the only movie I owned, like I could still just watch it over and over and over.
Oh yeah, dude, it's gold. Like all those old Arnold movies, pretty much any damn more. I didn't really get into the newer Arnold stuff in the 2000s or later 2000s. I think End of Days was like one of the last Arnold films I really enjoyed. But everything
Yeah,
after that, I'm like, it is. End of
yeah.
Days
Well,
is super underrated too.
yeah. Well, he kind of just fell into that thing that a lot of them fall into, where well, you know, they sort of become a parody of themselves and do a lot of comedies, and it's all about like the jokes, and I'm sure it's a great paycheck for them and they can just kind of walk through it. But we just watched Jingle All the Way a couple of
Uh,
nights ago, and I mean it's a fun movie, but
yeah.
it's like I don't want, when I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't want to think about him like that. I want to think about him just like, just kicking everybody's ass and throwing people off cliffs and shit.
Yeah. I mean, I do appreciate Jingle All the Way. Just watching it this time of year is cool just because I like to watch like cheesy ass Christmas movies during this time. But yeah, that's not the Arnold I remember. Like I said, I remember Commando Arnold, Predator Arnold. That's my Arnold.
Yeah. So I've been trying to, you know, every year I kind of do a thing, which I think a lot of people have started doing around in October. Like every day you watch a horror movie.
Mm.
Well, I kind of have started doing it with Christmas now too. So as as December 1st started, it's just a Christmas movie every day, and I try and do like one day will be like a Christmas horror movie, and then the next day will be like a fun like family kind of Christmas movie, and but I'm getting back into all like the great Christmas horror movies, and we just watched my favorite we watched 2 nights ago, Black Christmas,
Oh
which
yeah.
might be my favorite slasher movie of all time too. I mean, it's so effective, and it's one of those movies that every time you watch it, you see all the nuance in it, and just what a great storyteller Bob Clark was. And I recently rewatched Porky's.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, well, it was like the same guy. So Bob Clark, who made Black Christmas, also made A Christmas Story and Porky's. And it's funny, if you watch all three of those together pretty close to one another, like they're all real similar, even though tonally they couldn't be different from one another. But he does this thing where he can kind of capture this like a sort of a nostalgic feeling and this sort of hominess, and it's even in Porky's, like there's like this sort of hominess to it. And Black Christmas, I think, is really effective because it has that hominess. And so when the killer invades that home, like it's really fucking with your sense of familiarity with your surroundings. And man, that killer, that's like the one, because you only ever see the killer's eyeball,
right?
Black Christmas, but you hear him talking on the phone, and those phone calls are so fucked up.
Like, he got a voice, man. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and he's doing like a bunch of different voices, and you can sort of tell like something really bad happened to the guy when he was a kid, like he maybe killed his sister or something, and it just like fucked him up. And man, like that, I don't know, that I think that's one of the most effective killers of all time, and maybe it's because you don't see him.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like the fear of the unknown is what's scary to me when you don't really know what the killer is or what he looks like or what species it
Yeah.
is. It could be like a fucking monster or something on another line or whatever. But the unknownness of everything, that's what's scary to me. When people give it away too fast with the whatever monster or killer they have, and they just like have it on screen the whole fucking time. And it's kind of, I don't know, lessons to blow for me when it comes to being scary.
Yeah, that was the problem that a lot of people had with the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, was that he explained Michael Myers, and it's like, well, like I get the intention, I get wanting to like explain that, but when you do explain him, then it takes away some of the terror, because one of the things that was scary about the original Michael Myers and the original Halloween was like you just didn't, like, what the fuck is this guy's deal? Like,
Right.
you didn't know what his deal was. You just knew like, oh, well, he's the boogeyman. Like you're not supposed to necessarily know the boogeyman's backstory. He's just the boogeyman. He's scary.
Yeah, Rob Zombie kind of humanized him in his first film. I've actually both films are kind of like, all right, this is just a regular dude that's had, a lot of shit go down, and he finally broke. I do like how they had like a big ass intimidating Michael Myers and stuff, but I like the original where, like you said, you don't really know what this guy is really. Like, I've always been under assumption that he's possessed by like fucking Samhain or something, and like he's evil incarnate.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can understand wanting to explain things. I think that's the human drive, is to understand, but sometimes it just makes for a more enjoyable movie when you don't understand. It's like, I guess the classic example is Jaws, where you don't see the shark, like, till like halfway through the movie. It's just sometimes it's scarier when you don't see what's coming.
Yeah, Jaws is a prime example of that, man. Even till this day now, like I'm still like it still scares me a bit because it's so realistic in the way it's done, you know. Because not a lot of shark is in that movie. It's just the assumption that he's there lurking and stuff. And growing up, I did a lot of fishing with my dad. We did a lot of shark fishing, and this was a film we watched every summer before we go fishing. So,
Uh-huh.
dude, I'd be on that boat just fucking terrified sometimes. Like, I'd ask my dad, like, how far do great whites come into the coast? And I was like, well, sometimes they do come in a bit close. I'm like, oh, fuck. And we did hook
Yeah.
up with some pretty big sharks before we never got to see it. I would like fucking pull the boat around. So it's like, man, all that's flashing through my mind, It's like,
Yeah. Don't fall off the boat.
yeah, dude, fuck that. And back to Rob Zombie's Halloween, I did enjoy the first one. The second one, not so much, man. I don't know. The second one just it was kind of mean spirited in a weird way. I don't know. There's nothing to really like about it. It was just kind of like, But I heard he had a bunch of issues with production and stuff, and the upper management wanting to do this and that. But I did enjoy the first one for what it was.
Yeah, and I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. Rob Zombie's a guy, man. What a polarizing character that guy is, because so many people just like hate him,
Yeah.
and or they make fun of him because he puts his wife in all his movies and everything. I think his wife is a fine actress. Um,
Yeah.
it, I I feel like I think I've seen all of his movies. To me, they're all like okay. Like I think I think every time he comes really close to making a good movie, and sometimes he comes close to making a great movie. I think
Hmm.
what was the one that was set uh oh crap. um
Lords of
I'm
Salem.
blanking on the name. That's it, Lords of
Yeah,
Salem.
that's my favorite
um
Rob Zombie movie.
yeah, mine too. And I
Hmm.
and I felt like he came so close to making a great movie. I think it was a good movie. And then he does something at the end where I feel like a lot of his movies he kind of blows it at the end, and I felt like he was like had built just such effective sense of dread and terror, and then like at the very end of it, it kind of turned into a music video, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, like you fucked it up, like you had it going so good, and then you just sort of turned it into some other thing that I didn't come here for, and so at the end of that movie, it's like, well, it was a great movie until the last 10 minutes,
Hmm.
and so I walked away from it like, well, it's pretty good, but yeah, and so many people hated that movie, man. I like,
Yeah, a lot of hate.
yeah, and I was like, I don't know what you guys are hating on. Like this movie is pretty fucking good, and I don't know. Well, I haven't seen the Munsters because
Yeah.
it didn't look good to me. Like the trailer looked terrible, and I did read a lot of hate on that one. But I mean, I probably need to watch it just so I can
Yeah.
remain unbiased on that. Did
Yeah,
you
I
see the
made it.
Munsters?
Yeah, me and my wife watched it was it last October? Whatever year it came out, we are like, all right, we'll give it a shot. I've heard nothing but bad things. We made it like 30 minutes in. I just could not take any more of it, neither could she. So
That
I just couldn't
bad,
do it,
huh?
man. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck is this, man? And like yeah, it was pretty bad. Pretty bad. I mean, a lot of people like it, and if you like it, that's cool. It's not for me.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell from the trailer. I was like, nah, like fuck this.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's one of those things I'm gonna have to watch it eventually, just so I can know for certain.
I think
But I
with
might I
time
might
it
be like,
might age as a like cult it might have a cult following as it ages, maybe. You know what I mean? This is one of those type films, but I give it another 20 years and I think it might be more acceptable.
right. Well, and that's the funny thing about how things age, particularly what you would might call a cult movie, is that a lot of really beloved cult movies like were really panned, like when they first came out, like considered to be just horrible movies, but then something happens over time and they get reevaluated, and people realize, oh no, that was actually, maybe it was ahead of its time, or it's so bad it's good.
Hmm.
or it's funny because like it was bad or so hated. So yeah, we'll see what happens in 20 years if people go back to it. Maybe we just don't get it yet.
Right. Maybe the more advanced future awaiting us will understand this movie better than what we can.
Right.
But I recently, speaking of cult movies, I recently talked with Richard Elfman, and he did The Forbidden Zone. I'm sure you know The Forbidden Zone, yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, the movie is so
Yes.
fucking good. And I think it had the same type of thing when it first came out. I think it came out in 81, I believe. I believe 81, maybe a little bit sooner than that. But to me, that was way fucking ahead of its time. That's just something to be made like in the 90s or nowadays, really. Like it was
Oh
way out
yeah.
there. So good.
Yeah. And well, the funny thing is that yeah, like in some ways it was ahead of its time, but in other ways, like you can't show that movie to many people nowadays
Oh,
because
yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of you know politically incorrect humor in it.
Yes, yeah.
But I think you kind of have to like view it in the spirit of humor in which it was made, and it was definitely inspired by a lot of cartoons from like the 30s
Hmm.
and whatnot, and a lot of that comes through, and so it was a kind of humor that was really both dated and ahead of its time at the same time.
Hmm.
And man, just what a weird fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like that was when I was in college. I had that on VHS, and that was one of those ones that it was almost like a test where you met some new friend, and then you
Hmm.
showed them that movie, and if they liked it, they were cool, and if they didn't like it, then well, you didn't really need to hang out with them again.
Right.
So that was one of the test movies, and then the other big test movie was Pink Flamingos.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah. That's a
like
big
like
test.
yeah, I like that and that would be the one like if you started dating someone and like okay like check this out and they're like ew gross and it's like well things aren't really going to work out with us.
That would be a good double feature right there, Forbidden Zone and Pink Flamingos.
Oh, that would be a great double feature.
Yeah. Call it a super weird night or something. I don't know. God
Yeah,
damn.
those really cartoony movies that aren't cartoons.
Right. Yeah, there was a lot of those in the 80s. Even the early 90s had some fucking weird ass movies, man. Trying to think of the that one what was it? The Darkly Backward or whatever. It's the one that's set in the future and like these garbage men are like in this nasty ass fucking future world and this guy starts to grow a fucking arm out of his back. Have you seen, you know what I'm
I
talking about?
I I've not seen that, but that sounds
Oh
amazing.
man. I have to send you the link on that one, dude. Yeah, I think it's called The Darkly
Yeah.
Backward, and it came out in the early '90s, and it is so fucking weird, dude. Like this guy starts off with like this like zit on his back, and he's super disgusting. They're fucking eating like garbage and shit. They're just dirty as fuck. They're garbage men. This nasty future world, and this arm starts to form out of his back, and he becomes a stand-up comedian. Man, it is just out there, dude. And Bill Paxton's in it too, so that's a plus.
Oh man, I love Bill Paxton. God,
Yes.
that
Oh.
guy was so cool.
Yeah, anything he was in, I was always watching. I don't care if it sucked or not. Like his roles always, he always fucking performs.
Yeah. Did you ever hear his band?
I have not.
Um, God, was it? I'm gonna look this up because I don't want to get the name wrong.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was Martini Ranch. Um, yes. Okay, so he was in this band called Martini Ranch,
Hmm.
and they were kind of like Devo in a way, like kind of electronic new wave. And if you look them up on YouTube, they had a couple of music videos they made, and the music videos are really weird, and they were just kind of a cool band. And it's just weird to see that guy like doing like this kind of new wave like 80s band.
That's crazy. What did he? Was he the vocalist, or did he play anything, or do both, or?
It was two guys, and I'm not sure. I know they both sang, but I'm not sure if he played instruments in it or if it was the other guy doing the instrumentation. But yeah, just kind of a weird like electronic uh new wave band, Martini Ranch.
Martini Ranch. I definitely had to check that out because I had no idea he was in a band. That's cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah. Yeah, I miss Bill Paxton. Like, it sucked when he died. I was like, God damn it. Like, fuck. Because, I mean, he's good in everything.
Yeah, and he was really involved in kind of like a lot of underground film at the time too, where he worked on a lot of stuff. I think he worked like on some of David Lynch's early stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, he was just kind of, it just seemed like he was kind of a cool guy that was like really like in tune with the underground of stuff that was going on, but then also ended up being in like a lot of like huge, Hollywood movies.
Yeah, he was in some big ones, that's for sure. And I think one of his last roles, he was in like a Marvel TV series that was on like ABC or something, which was okay, but it was pretty big for him because it's Marvel, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's really, really sad. He passed away way too soon.
Yeah, totally agree. But he left his mark, and he left his mark in one of my favorite films of all time, Near Dark. Man, I fucking love Near Dark.
Oh my God, like that that's like my second favorite vampire movie of all time. It's so
That's a
good.
good choice.
First favorite is Blood for Dracula, the Andy Warhol Dracula movie with Udo
Oh,
Kier.
nice. Yeah,
Have you
that's a good
seen
one
that?
too. I have.
Oh
That's a good
my
one.
God, that performance in that. That's just that God, that movie that's the first DVD that I ever bought when DVDs came out.
Hmm.
I'm getting fucking Blood for Dracula on DVD.
Udo Kier is fucking awesome, man. I enjoy him and everything he's into because he's so fucking weird and he's always Udo Kier and everything. You know, he doesn't really
Yeah,
change much.
yeah, he kind of has that Jack Nicholson thing where like Jack Nicholson is Jack Nicholson in every movie, but
Hmm.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Like I like Jack Nicholson and I like Udo Kier, like just one of those guys that sort of plays himself, but he's always great.
I was recently talking about Jack Nicholson because I think was it last Friday? I usually do like on my social media pages, I do like a Friday night recommendation or whatever, and I try to pull some weird shit out most of the time. But I recommended Wolf, which is one of my favorite werewolf movies, and you know Jack Nicholson as a werewolf is fucking badass, man.
Yeah,
I think that movie
yeah,
doesn't get a lot of love, you know.
yeah, man. I haven't even thought about that because I haven't seen that since it came out. But that's one I need to go back and hit again. I rewatched some werewolf movies recently, and so I kind of need to go back on and hit that one. Rewatched The Howling and
Nice.
of course American Werewolf, which I think that's my pick. That's the best
Number
werewolf.
one for me too. Yeah, American Werewolf in London is my number one. Number two is The Howling, and
Yeah,
I think Dog Soldiers or Silver Bullet tie for my number three.
yeah. Those are good. Did you ever see Wolfen?
I did. I like Wolfen. Wolfen was
Yeah,
cool, but I hear the book was better. I never got to read the book, but I heard the book was a little bit better than the movie. But I enjoyed the movie, man. It was cool. Even though I'm not
yeah,
it wasn't technically a werewolf movie. It's more like a skinwalker thing because I don't know,
yeah.
I prefer like the werewolf monster type thing. So just like a regular old wolf, you know, it's kind of a bit lame to me, but that movie was still fucking cool as hell. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that one.
Yeah. That one seems to be forgotten a good bit. But yeah. American Werewolf. Holy shit! And just what a funny movie.
Right.
Too. Just and that's for me. That's a fine line to walk. I don't always like funny horror movies,
Hmm.
but every so like there's a few. Reanimator, I
Right.
think is probably the best horror movie that sort of walked that line of comedy. And
Hmm.
but sometimes like everybody loves Evil Dead 2, and I didn't like it when it came out because
Hmm.
I thought it was too goofy.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know a lot of friends of mine prefer the first one because it's more like straightforward hard. There's no real humor at all in the first one.
yeah, and so I don't know what it's like for people that are younger than me because because I saw the first Evil Dead not when it came out, but like shortly thereafter. I didn't see it in the theater, but I saw it when it hit VHS, and then I was waiting with anticipation for Evil Dead 2, and at that point Evil Dead was my favorite horror movie, like period, because it was just the most fucked up thing I'd ever seen.
Hmm.
And so when Evil Dead 2 came out, I didn't appreciate the humor back then, because I wanted something that was gonna, like, you know, beat the first Evil Dead in terms of just being like uh, scary and explicit and gory, and I didn't appreciate the Three Stooges-ness of it. And
Yeah.
like years later, I kind of went back to it, and I get it now, and I like it. But the first Evil Dead is still my favorite of all those.
Yeah, I probably
Especially
have to agree with you on that too.
if you like look at any documentary footage of the making of that movie, or read about, like, how they put that together, like, geez, man, like, it's a miracle that that movie was they pulled it off, and that it was just as amazing as it was. They were really up against it, and talk about like just having to scrounge to put something together. Like they really did it, and that's probably maybe one of the most inspiring movies to me. This is the story of it, being a filmmaker myself, to
Hmm.
see how they're able to put that together. That one and Night of the Living Dead are probably the two that are just like, wow, like they really had nothing, and then they just made a masterpiece out of nothing.
Yeah, and I mean they look how I mean they're still just as popular as they were back then as they are now, if not more popular now, you know?
Yeah, it's I feel like Night of the Living Dead, for being, so many people don't want to watch a black and white movie now, but it's like, man, I think that movie just holds up. I watch it every year. Like I try and watch it on Halloween every year, and
Hmm.
some years if I've got something going on Halloween, I'll watch it like the day before, the day after. But I do hit it every year, and never gets old. Just a great fucking movie.
Totally. Last time I watched Night of the Living Dead was on the last drive-in with Joe Bob, which I think was last year when he did Night of the Living Dead. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was last year. And man, it was great because you got his commentary plus, the movie and stuff. So it was extra cool, I thought.
Yeah, and just God, what a game changer that was. Like, I mean, everything that came out after it, like it just changed horror. Like you like you can look at horror movies that came before that and horror movies that came after it, and two, two totally different things.
Hmm. No,
Like it
yeah, it
affected
totally
it.
set the precedent for everything after that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Night of the Living Dead basically opened the doors for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then that opened the doors for Halloween, and then everything that's come since. Like it's basically like ground zero is Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's true. And I'm thankful for it, man, because Texas Chainsaw is one of my favorite films, and I'm glad it expanded off of that, and we got all these other killer films after all that, So
Yeah, yeah. Texas Chainsaw is definitely, like, I mean, if I had to rank my five favorite movies of any genre, it's definitely in the top five. Um, I mean, just God, like what a great piece of storytelling that thing is. And everybody says this, it gets repeated so often, but the fact that there's no gore in it, and
right.
but then people just like think that it's really gory. I mean, that's just a testament to good filmmaking, like the good storytelling, good editing, good performances. It's just another one of those miracles that they pulled off with having very little money, but just a lot of gumption.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I think with Texas Chainsaw 1, I think they got financed by some like mafia type figures and stuff for that movie. And it was a whole thing. I don't know if you know about that. Probably do, but
Yeah, I like. I'm not sure if the financing came from the mafia. Uh, I don't like. Don't quote me, because it's been so long since I've read about it. But I know that the mafia was involved in the distribution of it,
mm,
and that's where they got fucked, because the movie made a shitload of money, and those guys never saw any of it.
right.
Like because it was the mob was controlling the distribution, and so like they kept all that money, and those guys were basically just fucked at the end of it. I mean, kind of the same thing with Night of the Living Dead. Uh, they saw very little of that money that came back from that movie, and then they got fucked because like some snafu with the title card on Night of the Living Dead didn't contain the copyright.
Mm-hmm.
And so the movie came out basically not copyrighted and then instantly went into the public domain. So when the video era came about, any company that started up that wanted to put out Night of the Living Dead on VHS could do so and not have to pay any royalty or rights fees to made the movie because it was in the public domain. So those guys lost out on millions and millions of dollars just by a fuck up.
Yeah, that sucks too, man. Yeah, I know what you mean with the copyright stuff in Night of the Living Dead, because I was seeing it everywhere on these like crazy weird fucking DVDs I'd buy from like Kmart or something, like be some licensed Night of the Living Dead thing with this weird fucking art and stuff. I'm like, what the hell is this? It's Night of the Living Dead. I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah, it's because anybody could put it out. There was this company called Good Times Video back in the 80s, and their whole thing was just they would put out anything that was in the public domain, and it was like just shitty copies of stuff that they would the tapes were recorded on SLP, which was like the 6-hour speed, where the playback was just super shitty, but then they could save money on tape because you didn't have to put as much tape into the cassette. And so that was one of the companies that probably the first VHS copy of Night of the Living Dead that I got was from Good Times Video, and it looked like complete shit. Of course, now like there's a beautiful Criterion edition on Blu-ray that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I probably need to get that. I do love my Criterion releases. I've been collecting all the David Lynch's stuff that's been coming out on Criterion, and yeah, fucking amazing stuff.
Yeah, that Night of the Living Dead on Criterion is so worth it because there's just like a ton of extra stuff. It's just, I mean, just hours and hours of extra stuff related to the movie. It's a good deep dive.
And the cool thing with the Criterion films, if I'm not mistaken, are was it Barnes and Noble carries those in their like little video section, so that's pretty cool. You can just pick it up there. If they still do that, I think they still do.
Yeah, they do. And then once a year they have a sale where all the Criterions are half off.
Oh yeah, that's sweet. That's trouble for me, man. If I go in there, I'm going to spend a shit. We always spend a shit ton of money in Barnes and Noble, man. Between the collectibles and cool graphic novels they got out, or me and my wife love books, so we go crazy in Barnes and Noble. It's a bad idea. They step in there.
Yeah, I think the only one that was near me closed.
Oh
so,
no, man.
Yeah, man, it's hard out there for bookstores. Like, man, like it's tough.
It's scary too, man, seeing all these like bookstores closing down, like the well, we don't have any now, but we did have some mom and pop kind of DVD places where you can buy stuff from. Those are been going for a while now, but yeah, it's rough. And I'm hearing Best Buy might shut down sooner or later. I know they're supposed to be getting rid of all their like videos and all that shit and Blu-rays, all that's supposed to be going somewhere else, online only. It's scary for physical media.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I read about that earlier this year too, that Best Buy was getting rid of all their DVDs and movies, and like it sucks. It's a bad time right now for both musicians and filmmakers because everything has shifted to streaming. And I think what nobody realized, I think everybody was just focused on the convenience of it, and so they were able to capture most of consumers. Most consumers stream all their content now. There's very few that are still buying physical media because everything has shifted to that in such a big way. The streaming companies have just like cut their payouts like insanely drastically. And if you are a musician or a filmmaker, like it's not sustainable anymore.
Right.
When I put a movie out, when I first started doing movies, in 2017, you could get your movie on Amazon and you could not make a fortune, but you could make a decent amount of money. You might make your money back if it's a low budget movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can't remember the payouts were like, I don't know, maybe like 30 cents a view or something like that. So which is not great, but now it's like a half a cent
Oh,
a view.
wow.
So if somebody watches your entire movie, 90 minutes of their time, then you just got paid a half a cent for that.
Yikes.
So, you have to have, hundreds of thousands of people watching your movie to make anything. And it's not sustainable for artists at all. And it's just as bad if you're a musician. Like Spotify is paying like a twelfth of a penny or something like that. And it's like, how could you even buy strings for your guitar?
Yeah, right. You're not.
Spotify. And so what I tell everybody, it's like buy physical media, like because not only is it the only way that artists can sustain, but as a consumer, there, we see so many instances, so many stories that come out where someone has bought something digitally, and then the company that owns it takes it back.
Mm-hmm.
You might have paid. Well, it was a big thing with Amazon Kindle, where people were buying books for their Kindle, and then they would fire up their Kindle to find that their book was gone, and then it was Amazon just took it out of circulation.
Ooh, that's
it's
fucked
like,
up.
but I paid for that.
Yeah.
Too bad. And it's the same. It's the same thing. If you sign up for Spotify and they have all the recordings from your favorite band, but then one day they decide, well, we're not going to carry that anymore, and they yank it, and then you don't have access to those recordings anymore. And it's like all the people that have Netflix. When Netflix first came out, people were under the false impression that oh, well, they're going to have every movie. It's like, no, they don't. Nope. They have a handful of movies and they swap them out. And so if you thought you were going to watch Near Dark, because it was up there last month, it might not be up there this month. And it's just like, if you buy physical media, you have it forever. It's yours. Yep. You can pull that anytime you want, and you can watch it or you can listen to it. It's like, I've got, a whole room full of records that, I have records that are from 1920. And they still play. I can play that record from 100 years ago anytime I want it, and it's just not the case with streaming. They can pull stuff at any time. So I kind of went on a little rant there. Just, the point is people need to think about their purchases and what it goes to. And whether it's going to an artist or whether it's going to some CEO that just made $3 billion and then doesn't pay his artist for dick, and then as a consumer being able to actually hold and own the thing you paid for.
Right. No, I'm totally down with you on that. I do have streaming services, but I also buy physical media, and I support Bandcamp is pretty good for when it comes to giving artists more money than the rest of streaming services or whatever, because I'm on Bandcamp with my Abraxas Horn project, and I sold a few during release this year, and I noticed I did get a good bit of that money came to me. It wasn't going somewhere else. So I think that's pretty cool. So, and I try to always support on Bandcamp. I always try to buy physical media, even though I do have streaming services, but I do it all, because I want to watch everything. I want to buy shit.
Yeah, and Bandcamp has been great. I'm a little worried because they just got sold, and so I hate to be cynical about stuff, but I'm just like, well, it's just a matter of time before they fuck that up, because some new company owns it, and they're gonna try to figure out ways they can nickel and dime everybody and take a little bit more and take a little bit more, and that's how they do. That's how Amazon was. Like I said, when I started out, you could sustain making low budget movies by releasing them through Amazon, and they just kept taking away a little bit more and taking away a little bit more, and then you don't really notice it until like 5 years later, like, oh, I can't make any money anymore. Like there's no money here for me. And then the other thing is piracy. Like the two movies that I've made before, the day they went up on Amazon, or like within hours of going up on Amazon, they were instantly pirated and hit all the torrents.
Wow.
So there's these bots, and I think they're all based out of Russia. And the only reason I say that is because my first two movies have been dubbed into Russian, like,
wow.
like not subtitled but dubbed. They got people to sit in a room and dub my movies into Russian. But
fuck.
yeah, it's really weird. But there are these bots, and then as soon as any new movie gets released to Amazon, the bot will purchase the movie, and then instantly it's on like 20 different fucking torrent sites.
Wow.
And I just would watch like my numbers go down, because when like both the Theta Girl and Bad Girls, both of those movies, we initially released those to Vimeo, because Vimeo is sort of like the Bandcamp of movies,
right,
where you actually get a good chunk of the money that people are spending actually goes back to you. So we'd release on Vimeo first, and then we'd do that for like a month, and then we'd put it on Amazon, because it's kind of like Vimeo and Amazon is sort of like Bandcamp and Spotify, where like one pays better, but the other exposes you to more people.
Right.
So you want to, you know, the idea is you want to get on Amazon because, you know, millions of people search Amazon, and more people might see your thing. But then as soon as it went up on Amazon, it got pirated, hit all the torrents, and then like all our Vimeo money stopped because nobody would pay to watch a thing that they could get for free. And so as soon as we hit the torrents, we're just fucked. No more money coming in. And that's the way it usually works. Every once in a while, you hear a story about somebody getting pirated and it works in their favor. And that's what happened with Skinamarink. Did you see that movie?
Oh, dude, that's probably my favorite movie so far this year. I'm pretty sure it came out this year. The year's kind of going crazy, but I think that it came. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that guy, again, like super low budget movie. I think it was like around $10,000 or something like that. That he spent on making the movie, and he submitted the movie to some film festivals, got into festivals. Well, one of the festivals, somebody working at the festival fucking pirated his movie.
Oh man.
And then and released it to all the torrents. And you know, that would be such devastating news, because like he hadn't even put it out yet. Like it was just in festivals. It's like, well, my movie's fucking worthless now because nobody's gonna pay for it because it's out there for free. But then like miraculously, it caught on. It was really kids on TikTok started talking about it and really hyping it up as like, you know, it's like the scariest movie of the year. Some people were like, this is the scariest movie I've ever seen, and the buzz got so big about it that Shudder came to them and they were like, well, we want your movie because everybody's talking about it. And so then they did a whole like theatrical release for it, and then it took off, and the guy, I think it made like $2 million theatrically. So it ended up like benefiting this guy, and you know, being kind of in that same position. I'm like, man, I'm so happy for him that worked out, because 9 times out of 10 it will not work out that way. The way it works out is just that, well, people just pirate your movie and then you never see a dime, and then you're trying to figure out how to get enough money to make your next movie.
Yeah, I'm really happy it worked out for him, man, because that movie is fucking killer. But it's one of those movies where like there's a bunch of people that fucking hate that movie, like really hate it, and there's a bunch of people like me that really love that movie, and it's a big divide between those two. There's no like in between. It's like you fucking love it or you fucking hate it, you know?
Yeah, I actually am probably one of the rare in betweens, and
Hmm.
and it's and I'll quantify that. Um, I think when I started watching it and I fucking loved it, and I loved like the first 20 minutes of it. I was like, this is so effective and so creepy. But then I felt like after 20 minutes, it had sort of done everything that it was gonna do, and then I kept watching it, and I didn't. It was kind of diminishing returns for me after the
Hmm.
first 20 minutes, and then so when it was over and done, I was like, I you know like I think it would have made a great short film.
Yeah.
like I felt after a while that my time was being used up, and so I didn't hate it. Uh, I have mixed feelings on it.
Well, I can totally see that. That's one of my critiques of that film. My biggest critique is that it's too long. If it was like an hour, I think that would be fucking perfect.
Yeah, yeah, and but I say that about almost every movie. I think every movie is too long. Like,
Dude, movies are long as fuck now. I know the new Scorsese movie's 3 hours and 20 minutes. I
yeah,
can't remember the name
that's
of
a,
it. It's on iTunes now.
yeah, that's the only reason I haven't watched it yet, because
Fuck.
that's a commitment.
Yeah, that's a miniseries, dude. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but well, I'll tell you. We're talking about horror movies. We're talking about movies that came out this year.
Mm.
A movie that was the right length was fucking Thanksgiving. Have you seen it?
I haven't, man, but everybody's saying it's fucking cool as shit. I want to see it. I haven't seen it though.
Oh my god, I loved it. I fucking loved it. It was like it's everything that I want when I go see a horror movie. And man, it was effective, and the kills were amazing, and just everything about it. It's a fucking great movie. And Eli Roth is one of those guys, kind of like Rob Zombie, where like he has a lot of haters. Like
Yeah,
people fucking hate that guy, and I'm not one. Like
me either.
I've loved every movie he's done. Like I think he gets it. I think he gets horror, and I think he gets like slasher movies and why people like them. And he's a fan, and and you can tell he's a fan just by watching the fucking movies.
Hmm.
And Thanksgiving might be my favorite of all of his movies.
Wow, yeah, I'm hearing the same thing from a lot of people I trust with their like reviews and stuff, saying how good this is. They're saying it's just good. Like to me, Cabin Fever is my favorite Eli Roth movie, but people were
Yeah,
comparing it just as good as that was. So that's a big statement, you know?
yeah, yeah. I think you will fucking love that movie. I'll be curious to hear your take on it when you finally get to see it.
Yeah, hopefully soon, man. That way I can give my thoughts on it and stuff. I'm trying to get all the movies that came out this year. I'm trying to give them all a watch where I can have my top 10. But my top 10's probably not gonna come out till like mid-January probably because new shit's still coming out right now, like in December. And I
Yeah,
want to make sure I try to watch everything from, because sometimes, man, that one movie comes out at the fucking end and blows you away. Like last year, Barbarian. I think that one came out. I think that came out to video anyways, to VOD, like towards the end of that year, and that one blew my fucking mind.
yeah. Did you see Infinity Pool?
I did. Infinity Pool, I wanted it to be a little bit different than what it was. It was still
Uh,
good, but like the like trailer and stuff made it out to be like I thought it was gonna be like I don't know, have to look at like a Mandy type film with like the cool reds and purples, that kind of look to it, you know. But when it came out, I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's not great, but it's good.
yeah, it definitely wasn't anything like Mandy. It was a different animal, but I liked that movie quite a bit. I like all his stuff. Uh, David Cronenberg's son.
Hmm.
Uh, I think he's done a good job of following in his dad's footsteps.
Yeah, he's solid. I mean, the movie was still good. It wouldn't make my like top 10 list, but it's a good solid like 8 out of 10 for me. And like
Yeah,
he's got a good eye for it, man, just like his dad. I think he's got a like really bright future ahead of him, and I'll watch anything he does. So
yeah, yeah. I've been so busy with this making this movie that I haven't gotten out to see a lot of new stuff this year. So that was one of the few that I that I got a chance to see that I really liked. and of course Thanksgiving. But I'm like you. It's like, man, I gotta hurry up and like try and see like all these movies that I missed this year, just so I can like decide which was the best. I like deciding which was the best.
Yeah, it's fun, and I love doing like a top 10 list every year. I've been doing the top 10 list since I started the website and got into podcasting. So probably like maybe 5 or so years now. Time goes by
Yeah,
so fast now. But
yeah.
recently, like one of the most coolest recent movies I've seen, I've been putting it off till towards the end because I want to make sure I had time to sit down and really watch it and wasn't distracted by bullshit. It was my friends in the Adams Family, Where the Devil Roams. I really fucking enjoyed that one.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
It's Are you familiar with the Adams Family's work, like other films?
No.
Okay, yeah, they're the Adams Family. Like they're like the whole family does all their movies together. Like they fucking produce it, they act in it, they do everything, sound, video, all that stuff. And they're like nomadic almost, man. They travel wherever to film wherever. It's like super DIY punk attitude, and
Oh, I
they're
love that.
fucking awesome. Really nice people. They've been on the podcast once or twice, and we'll talk to them again in a few months. But yeah, the Adams Family is really cool. Some of their films are they did Knucklejack, The Deeper You Dig, Hellbender, which is on Shudder. I don't know if it's still on Shudder or not, but it was on Shudder. But it's really
I've heard,
cool shit.
I've heard people talking about Hellbender. I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things about it.
Dude, they have their own band. Like the whole family's in a band and it's like fucking heavy kind of psych rock, a little bit of doom elements to it, some electronic stuff thrown in there. Like they do all their own music and shit. They're fucking awesome.
Oh man, this sounds so far up my alley. Yeah, I'm gonna dig into this when we get off the phone.
Yeah, go down the rabbit hole, man. Like so far, all their films, so I think Where the Devil Roams is my favorite. But everything they've done is solid, and knowing that they do it all by hand, it's all them. It's just even cooler, man. And how cool they are too. They're like the most down to earth people, and they're all like fucking. They're all into metal, punk. I mean, it's really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. So Where the Devil Roams, is that the latest one?
Yes, that's their brand new one, and that is you can rent it on Amazon or I think iTunes and stuff. I don't know if there's any physical releases of that yet because it just came from like doing the whole horror circuit thing or whatever. So I don't know if they have any physical releases yet. I don't think they do, but
Okay, I'll check that out on Amazon. That sounds really good.
yeah, I think it's like $5, man. And it's really really good, really atmospheric, really dark. It's just I don't know, it's great. It's
Cool.
yeah, I think you really dig that, especially with the DIY spirit. I think you're definitely connect with it.
Yeah, I mean that's you know a lot of the stuff that I do make time to watch is stuff from people that I've met along the journey of doing independent film. So you kind of become friends with a lot of other DIY filmmakers, and so I try and always like catch stuff from people that are sort of working in the same scene that I am.
Yeah, that's cool, and it's good to like befriend these people that are out there trying to do good things and like really like cheer them on and stuff, man. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Have you seen Murder Size?
Oh, Murder Size, that's on my list of things to watch, but it looks fun as fuck.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of my friends made that, and it's a lot of fun. So as far as horror movies that came out this year, it's kind of campy. It's sort of like a throwback to 80s slashers. But I recommend that.
Okay, cool. I think that's if I'm not mistaken, I think it's streaming on like Tubi too. So I had it to my
Yeah,
list on there. So
it is. Yeah, yeah. It's this guy Paul Ragsdale made it, and he's done some really cool stuff. He did Slash Lorette Party before this one, which was a lot of fun. Um, Streets of Vengeance. So kind of a cool filmmaker, and I like the stuff he does.
that's cool. I make sure I try to watch that before the year's out, which I only have a few more weeks of that. Like fuck. But how would any like some of my listeners know like back your stuff up on? Are you on like Indiegogo? Where do they need to go to help back you up on your movie?
Yeah, so we're running an Indiegogo right now, and And if you go to it, there's a teaser for the movie, and then a little pitch after that. But I think the pitch is pretty entertaining. It sort of explains who we are and what we're doing. But that's www.paternostermovie.com. So that's PATERNOSTER movie.com. And yeah, like there's some cool perks and stuff up there, some fun stuff, and I try to make everything affordable, because I look at a lot of crowdfunders and they just like have like weirdly crazy prices on stuff, or like they'll be charging like $100 for a DVD or some shit. I'm like, that's nuts to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I try to, like, everything is priced at what it should be priced at, I think. Yeah, and we recorded a whole album's worth of music for the movie, and so there's like a double album is one of the perks, and it's real limited, and like there's like all these limited covers for it and everything, and then the Blu-ray is going to be a double disc Blu-ray, and so it's going to have the movie, and it's going to have like a bunch of extra stuff with the movie, and then all the music videos that we made for the songs. So it's just like a ton of stuff. I kind of like made an album's worth of music videos, a short film, and a feature all at the same time. Because I guess I just like to pile work under myself. So it's a lot of stuff all at once. But it's all fun stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely going to back this as well. I've been eyeing it and stuff. I've been waiting for the right time to do it, and right now is the right time. So, like, anybody listening to this, you definitely want to check this out and back it, because Chris makes awesome stuff, and yeah, you won't regret it, that's for sure. And this new one's gonna be fucking badass. I can already tell, and I love the music video stuff you're doing too. This shit's fucking cool.
Oh, thanks, appreciate that. Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun with it.
Hell yeah. Well, it's been great talking with you, Chris, man. It's we'll have to do this again next year. I don't want to wait as long as we did before. I think last time we talked was like like 3 years ago or so. It was like when I first started the podcast, and I was using some shitty ass mic and some old ass computer. So I've upgraded since then.
Yeah, let's definitely do it again. Maybe when the movie's done, we'll do a deep dive.
I'm totally down with that, man. And I hope you have a great holiday and stuff. And I will talk with you soon.
You too. Thanks, Brandon.
Take it easy.
All right, you too.